Welcome back to the Imaginary Gallery. It's TJ, your host. Tonight's discussion is more from the Thomas Sheridan book we love so much, called Puzzling People, The Labyrinth of the Psychopath, which I've added to, and the other Cluster B monsters. I wanted to cover two sections from this, which I find very interesting. Some of the things he's saying are very similar to things I've said. It's just hearing him say it brings in a slightly different perspective. So we will utilize both of our knowledge bases. The first section is something I've referred to before when I said, do not ignore your gut feeling. Thomas Sheridan's version of this says, wake up and listen to your inner voice. Now, as I paraphrase from him, he says that trusting your own instinct is something we all need to become more familiar with, especially when dealing with other people, including creatures. We have our intuition for reasons. Anyone who's ever been caught in the labyrinth of one of these monsters will always, myself included, comment later on that many red flags were a-waving. And what did we do when we saw those red flags? Unfortunately, most of us turned a blind eye because they had a really nice smile, or they had a really nice way of paying attention to us if we were sad in the fake idealization phase, or whatever. We may have turned a blind eye to these warning signs while accepting this creature's excuse or diversion designed to take us off the scent. On more than one occasion, with more than one of these monsters, is like the same thing. It's like you feel like you're in a movie and you're doing the same movie Groundhog Day every single time. It's like, I've been through this before, and you can even predict some of the sickness that happens. Now, Thomas Sheridan tells us about one of his friends who discussed a situation where this friend had to go into the hospital with a creature whose father had just been diagnosed with a terminal illness. Rushing to the hospital, they entered the reception area. The creature paused and then turned to Sheridan's friend and casually asked,
"How should I behave in front of all my family members? Is there a system to be followed to deal with this kind of event?"
Sheridan's friend said that he was absolutely dumbstruck. It was such a surreal question to be asked. At the time, the friend just put it down to this creature was simply being in shock upon hearing the news, which is something we'll do. We'll make excuses for this sick behavior. Then, noticing the friend was amazed by such a statement, the creature glibly continued,
"Oh, my family and I, we're so dysfunctional."
making a joke out of it. According to the friend, the creature's family were perfectly normal. Friend told him that he observed how the creature looked at them, took tips from their body language, and then went around hugging them in the most superficial and forced manner. Fake! The creature simply had no idea how to deal with grief for the simple fact that it was incapable of feeling grief. Because remember, this isn't a child. A child, I understand when I was a kid. Like, for example, I'd be at a funeral or something of somebody I didn't even know, and I'd be like, "Mommy, what do I say to people when they ask how I am?" I just didn't know because I didn't grasp the situation. But we're talking here about adults, family members of adults who are dying. But the creature had no previous experience of profound inner sadness to study and emulate when required. So we're presuming he'll be more prepared next time. Maybe it went home and practiced in the mirror. It's not unusual for these creatures in relationships to constantly quiz you about what your interests are, what your desires are, and what your sexual fantasies are. They are constantly learning and evaluating. I say they're studying you, and they're keeping track of things a real person does, so then they can try to play that role when the time comes that they need to. They are constantly learning and evaluating, simultaneously looking for your triggers and perfecting their own techniques of emulating human responses. The second part of this is the ice-breaking technique. And this is one I had not heard of until Thomas Sheridan's book. He says that one of the main tactics these creatures use to win the trust of even the most intelligent and intuitive people is what I'm supposing he's coined this phrase, he calls it the ice-breaking technique. At first, he tells us that it seems very similar to the pity play technique, but this works in a different or more specific and targeted level. Politicians and salesmen, which he says are the same thing if you think about it, they cannot function without the ice-breaking technique. Whereas the pity play, which is used to get these monsters out of trouble or take them away from the responsibility of something they've done, creatures use this ice-breaking technique to lure the target into a trap by playing on some issues in the target's life, or most often the target's natural human kindness, which they see as a weakness to be exploited because they're great people. They'll make sure that you're well aware that they love their families and their friends, their cats, their dogs, and their children, and you'll be given such a convincing performance as their current skill level allows in order to convince you. And he says that politicians love to be seen and photographed holding babies, kissing children, walking dogs, talking about precious things if you're the queen, where it's quiet and dry. But it goes much more deeply and is far more pernicious than just fake image promotion. In terms of verbal and personal interactions, language and carefully crafted statements and opinions become the weapon of choice for the preying creature in target mode. The creature will make sure to have the right books in their hand when they're meeting potential targets. Thomas recalls laughing to himself when, right on cue, just about every enlightened psychopath he knew could be seen carrying a copy of The Audacity of Hope by Barack Obama, Barry Soetoro, in early 2007. Whatever the psychopath thinks target requires, these props will be casually and subliminally displayed leading up to and during this ice-breaking technique. The ice-breaking technique will be implemented once they get to know you enough to have researched enough of your soft spots and your interests. For instance, an online creature predator will take an interest to you on a message board or your Facebook page and examine the most microscopic, exhaustive, and detailed level everything and anything you've posted on the internet. They will sift through these nuggets of information in order to get personal details about you, which you may have made public and even possibly forgot that you even said. If you let it slip that you're volunteering for, let's say, an African charity, this creature who's targeting you will then perhaps sponsor a family in Africa who are in need, and then make sure that their name is clearly visible as the charity giver on the website. So when this creature starts emailing the target to begin this hunt, they'll casually mention that they're donating to African American causes too, despite the target's gasp of surprise.
Oh, wow, we're so much alike.
Faith hasn't brought you and the creature together. Fraud has. This is just one example of how fantastically devious these monsters can be. Remember, they have no love, empathy, compassion, remorse, or conscience inside of them. So they fill this void with their predatory, multi-layered scams and Machiavellian plots. It works on every possible level and covers all aspects of human behavior and social interactions. They are not a proper human consciousness themselves, but they've studied humanity in the same way that a botanist might spend their lives studying a plant or plants. They analyze your every comment and implement pre-scripted and highly developed scenarios whereby you will hear back from this creature everything you would like to hear, and then believe that you've actually come across a true soulmate or honest politician who, this time, won't be like the other con artists, or the last con artist, except you haven't found anything special at all. You are simply the latest fish to be hooked on their line. Now, he's calling this ice-breaking technique, which I kind of see this as part of the idealization phase of the narcissist stages. Again, these are all overlapping, and this maybe is his specific take on that, since he created the term. But yes, it was interesting, and that's why I brought it up.
I am the Narcopath. You don't know me by that name, but it's me. Remember me? The one that you thought got away? The one that you were so in love with
Think back in your memory bank. That's right, it's me. The one that
I
you
mirrored you
foolishly
so
thought
well.
got away.
Well, I'm here to give you a confession because I'm required to for reasons I won't
I'm
disclose.
going to have to give you some confession. So... First off, I don't want to hear a thing about how I just up and deserted you. I don't want to hear about that. I have my reasons. I know from the gossip that I obtained on an online chat room that I'm the one you felt got away. I could tell by your posting you were referring to me. I'm just here to let you know what happened. I know how you were in college, and I could tell by the brand of car you drove. You were pretty rich, or at least your parents were. That's okay with me. I get along well with people's fathers. I noticed you were really rich. Well, if you remember me, I showed up in my brand new silver black shiny Lamborghini and said, "Hey, stud, what's up?" And you were instantly attracted to me because, of course, I was wearing nothing but a bra like this one. It always gets the boys' attention. I know that we started hanging out a little after class. The flattery worked on you. You wanted more. I know we hung out more and more, and I happened to notice some of your bank statements in your dorm, actually, and thought, honey, what are you doing in a dorm? You should be in a palace. But I didn't say a word. Well, I'm a money hunter, and I noticed you had the goods, and I knew I had to have you. That's why I was driving that Lamborghini to begin with, and I know it impressed you. Problem was, we had that first date that was, so amazing. And then we had that second date, and I got to meet your family. I had told you all kinds of things, like I was a debutante, that I was independently wealthy, that I didn't care about money so much I could just throw it in the streets because I prefer to deal with more sensitive things like human nature and being friendly to my environment. And you bought every bit of it. Well, if you need to know the truth, I stole that Lamborghini. I come from Skid Row. I had nothing. Well, I had that Lamborghini, but I didn't pay for it, and I stole it. And I thought I would use it because upon profiling you and your richness, I figured, well, I'll have to appear to be in the same league as you. And I've kept it up for as long as I could. But you have to understand, the police found it. I tried to scrape off the license plate, took the stickers off and whatever, and they still found it. So I got lost. I could not face you because I was called into jail. I was told I was guilty of a felony and all this stuff, and I couldn't let you hear any of this, especially knowing that some of your family are in law enforcement. I couldn't embarrass myself like that. So I conveniently vanished.
I know that I promised that with my stellar A1 credit that we could get a nice apartment because I know your parents cut you off for a few years, but I knew what was coming because I looked into your private affairs. So I knew that my small amounts of suffering would be worth it in the long run. I knew that you were getting the fortune. That's all that mattered. But the problem was, I couldn't keep up the facade. I was dirt poor. My credit's ruined. I'm told I have to tell you about that too, so here it goes. Ugh. My credit is bad. Not because I'm irresponsible. It's simply bad because I'm just a giving person. For example, I'd be working and my roommates wouldn't, and they couldn't afford their share of the rent, so I would give them their share and my share. And of course, it ended up making me destitute. But I care so much about other people. That's what happened. This happened year after year after year, and those stupid credit agencies ruined my credit because of it. It's not my fault I care about people. They used to call me on the phone. Oh, I used to have some screaming matches with those witches. Oh, those cunts would call me. Oh. But anyway, I'm very responsible. It's just my credit score wouldn't agree. Sorry.
All this talk about credit. Oh, it just gives me horrible memories. Those people harassed me on the phone. I didn't have the money to pay them. That is not my fault, and they had no right to ruin my credit. Call my employer, which at that point was an escort service that went under. They didn't get anywhere there. But still, they tried to stalk me and ruin my life. It's not my fault. I didn't expect to be like that. Ugh.
Well, again, I couldn't let you know any of this because of the facade I'd been putting on, that I was this great critic person, that it's okay that your parents wouldn't give you your fortune yet. Well, I didn't have to say fortune because I wasn't supposed to know that, and I know it slipped out once, but I just said, oh, I must have mixed it up with a movie I was thinking of. And you bought it, of course, because you're gullible.